Hello, Internet. One thing I've been thinking about lately is the issue of there being no cookie cutter when it comes to cancer. The cancer experience, the even the diagnosis experience, the background experience, the first line standard of treatment experience. I mean, first of all, there's so many different kinds of cancer out there, which we all know. But secondly, even like in the specific lane of a particular type of cancer, in my case, CRC, colorectal cancer, there are so many different versions, flavors, types, even among staging. I mean, I know a lot of people through the Man Up to Cancer support group that I've mentioned before. I know a lot of guys with my same diagnosis, stage 4 colorectal cancer. And there are people who get a diagnosis and don't last more than maybe 6 or 8 months. Then there's people who are sort of close to the averages, which means kind of a 2.5 to 4 year period where they do pretty well and they respond to treatment and they go through surgical options, but they eventually succumb to the disease in that kind of average range of 2.5 to 4 years. Then you start to get to the people who make it 5 years and 6 years. And then the numbers really start to drop off. But I know and am aware of some people who, with stage 4 colorectal cancer, are hitting the 7 and 8 and 10 and 11 year survival thresholds. So, one of the big things that I've learned, and you guys have heard me talking on here quite a bit, just about there are no formulas. I started to learn that way back in the beginning, but as time goes on, and as I approach my own 2.5 years of survival since my original diagnosis, I find out more and more just that there is no cookie cutter. There is no formula. There is no generic timeline to this stuff. That goes for treatment. Treatment options are all over the place. You could talk to 10 different doctors at 10 different hospitals, 10 different cancer centers, clinics, and get 10 different ideas of how things should be pursued. Of course, there are some, I mentioned standard of treatment, and I won't go into all those details because a lot of it is, medicines and drugs that a lot of you haven't heard of, and they're tongue twisters. Anyway, but the point is there are some standard of treatment formulas that are quite common in the beginning stages. But even in the beginning stages, there are people who have surgery right away, and then there are people like me who had a couple of months or a few months of chemo before I was in a situation where I had to have surgery because of my bowel obstruction in January of 2023, when I was only 2.5 months into my disease. So anyway, there are so many, so many hurdles. There are so many forks in the road. There are so many unexpected situations that could pop up that cause the whole treatment formula to suddenly change and go in a different direction. And that's basically just what I wanted to introduce here and say, there's people who stumble into these videos who have cancer, who maybe ran across something on The Patient Story, which is an interview I did a few months back. And I get comments and questions even over on that platform. I think when you're new to this, you think that there is just an A, B, C, D, that there are just things that are sort of accepted that we follow. But I learn all the time that's not the case. Um, one of the reasons I bring this up is because I feel like I may be approaching my own fork in the road. Uh, I just had my 5th cycle of treatment for this particular set of cycles. Back in the beginning, I had 6 rounds of chemo, and then I had surgeries. In fact, my bowel obstruction and my colectomy happened between about my 3rd and 4th cycle of original treatment way back in 2023. Then I had my liver resection. After that, I had a couple of ablations. And then I had my 2nd set of cycles, which was last summer, and I had 4 treatment cycles. And now I am 5 cycles into this set. So that means I have had 6 plus 4 plus 5. I have had 15 cycles or 15 rounds of chemo in 2.5 years. And to be honest with you guys, that is a very small number of rounds of treatment for someone that's 2.5 years into stage 4 colorectal cancer. Now, I've got one more round on the schedule at the end of this month, but in between, I will be having a CT scan. That's going to happen next week. My last set of blood work earlier this week, I had my first CEA reading. I've mentioned this so many times, the carcinoembryonic antigen. It is a sort of gold standard tumor marker for colorectal cancer. My number was 3.7 about 2.5 months ago when we decided to commence with this treatment period. But that number dropped from 3.7 to 0.5. 0.5 is about the lowest my CEA number has ever been, which tells us that the chemo is working. And I knew it was because I've told you before, I have some soft nodules in my mid-abdomen that I can actually feel. And they have completely shrunk. I can't feel them at all anymore, which that combined with the low CEA number tells me that this latest round of treatment or this latest set of cycles of treatment is working. So I really expect that we'll have good news from my CT scans next week, and that may mean that we do not pursue this last treatment at the end of this month, or they may want to go ahead and do that because that'll be the 6th. And this is where it gets very interesting because there's a lot of doctors who would say, no, let's keep going. Let's do 8 or 10 or 12 cycles, even though my CEA number is just about as low as it can get. And even if my CT scans show that we've made great progress in arresting, shrinking, stabilizing the disease for now. So, of course, I'll be back on here and let you guys know what we decide. But we're a little bit, this comes to a little fork in the road where I will be having consultations with a liver surgeon and my oncology team. Because, of course, as you guys know, if you've been following along, the colon cancer, my colon is gone. It was removed in January of 2023. But the issue is the metastatic growth and development, which has been concentrated in my liver. And that's usually how it is with CRC stage 4. The liver is the biggest challenge. For some people, it gets into the lungs. I had one tumor in my lung about 1.5 years ago that they ablated, got rid of, and there's been no new, serious, significant, concerning development in my lungs. So anyway, the point is, for me personally, at this stage of my cancer experience, cancer journey, the liver is the thing that we're really focusing on. So uh, my CT scan is next Thursday. I will have a video consult with a liver specialist, liver surgery, liver surgeon. That's what she is. She's actually a direct disciple of Dr. Cleary, who did my original liver resection back in April 23. So I really trust her and I know where she's coming from. She knows my history very well. So we will talk about what we see on the CT scan to see if maybe I'm a candidate for more ablations or even resectioning, or whether I'm doing well enough to leave it alone. Then the following Monday, I will be having consultations with my oncology team again. And from the treatment chemo perspective, we will decide whether we can take a break from treatment or whether we want to do another cycle or 2 or 3 or whatever they decide. There's a lot of different directions we can go. So anyway, back full circle to how I started this video. It's not a cookie cutter. There is no formula. There is no handbook that says do A, then do B, then do C. There are so many different directions that we can go, and research is constantly coming out. New research, new papers are being written, new breakthroughs with procedures, and I'm going to do another video on that later. There are so many procedures out there that I think most of us have never heard of. Even I recently have run across a few brand new emerging procedures that I had never heard of before, just because the technology is moving forward so quickly. And that's why we get the cliche, the longer you live, the longer you live. Because every extra 6 months or 1 year that you make it with stage 4 disease, there are new treatments available. Some of them medical or medicinal, chemo, and some of them procedures, radiological procedures, surgical procedures. And so it's kind of, it's kind of interesting and even exciting in a strange way to just watch and observe how this whole thing unfolds and develops. And of course, my goal is to bring you guys along with that. Some of you are loved ones, close friends, but there are others of you who catch these videos that maybe also are fighting your own battle with cancer, or maybe you have a loved one who is going through cancer and you've seen a lot of similarities between what you are dealing with or they are dealing with and what I am walking through. And so that's kind of my goal, is as we move forward that we would learn together where this is all going. So anyway, 13 minutes is enough for a video today. And I, again, appreciate your comments, your messages, your love and support and prayers. You know how much it means to me. And I'll be back on here when I have news from my upcoming scans and appointments. So thank you guys so much. And also happy Easter weekend to everyone. So I'll see you later. Bye-bye.